Hey guys, welcome back to Ask Virtue, where every Wednesday I'm going to answer your burning questions on fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle. All right. So this week we had some great questions regarding nutrition, so we're going to go that route today. Okay. So the first question actually arose out of having a great discussion here at the gym at 11 a.m. and that was I was discussing about how my wife and I have given up sugar for the Lenten season, right? So any type of added sugar. And one of the things that we talked about was how when you take something out, you usually have to replace it with something good or something else, right? A big mistake that happens when people eliminate something from their nutrition plan, right? Whether it's sugar, carbohydrates, gluten, or anything else that you've been told or you've seen on in the magazines or the internet or any of that stuff that is beneficial to remove, whether it's, like I said, carbs, sugar, gluten, lectins, anything and everything that you could possibly think of. When you remove something, you have to fill that back in with something else. Now, a big mistake that happens is that people don't do that. They don't fill it with something else, right? So they hack something off and then they completely leave it. Or they may replace it with something that has less energy density than the thing that you originally took out. So for example, with sugar, when my wife and I eliminated added sugars, that means we eliminated a lot of the cakes and the cookies and the desserts, but it also meant that we eliminated a lot of other things like marinades and sauces, salad dressings, and then some of the yogurts and the cottage cheese that we were consuming, right? So when you eliminate a lot of that stuff, that creates a imbalance in the amount of energy that you're consuming from your foods, right? So if you go more towards the vegetables and stuff like that, that typically doesn't have as much energy as some of the more calorie dense or energy dense foods that are processed and pre-prepared. So what that usually means is when you do that, and you just replace it with some good stuff, you don't realize exactly how much of that good stuff you need to consume in order to backfill that energy that you just hacked off of your diet when you eliminated sugar, gluten, or whatever else, right? So what happens when you do that is that sets you up for a binge later on in the week or later on, however long it takes. It's not usually, you kind of set the timer and it's a ticking time bomb, right? So if you don't replace those, whatever it was, with some good stuff. So for example, my wife and I, we did the no sugar thing for Lent. So what that means is we have to look at, okay, we need to add some more quality sugar, carbohydrate based foods into our diet to make sure that we're getting that energy and backfilling what we just hacked off with the desserts and so on and so forth, right? So some of the things that we added was some cut pineapple, Honeycrisp apples are in season right now and they're delicious. And then, rice, quinoa, those types of foods, those good quality, smart carbohydrate choices that are a little bit higher on that carbohydrate continuum. If you've ever done nutrition coaching with me, we talk about the carb quality continuum, right? So you have some smart carbohydrate choices and then some not so smart carbohydrate choices, and you just kind of try and tick along and you move up this good continuum of where you're having oats, quinoa, ancient grains, all of that stuff. We're trying to add more of those in, potatoes, rice. Those are all smarter quality carbohydrate choices than say like cookies, desserts, stuff like that, right? So there's no good or bad foods. It just so happens that there's more optimal, slower releasing carbohydrates. They don't make your blood sugar swing up and down, up and down, up and down, which is what kind of makes you hangry, is when you have something that's a lower quality carbohydrate. It hits your bloodstream real quick and then all of a sudden you're crashing. You get that nice rush of high and then you get that crash afterwards. And if you're overly caffeinated, which I tend to be, you get that tired and wired feeling. So what we've noticed over the past week and a half, 2 weeks that we've been doing this is that that hangry feeling kind of goes away. Because your blood sugar stays even when you have a higher quality of a carbohydrate. But you have to be very conscious about adding those carbohydrates back into your diet when you eliminate a lot of the lower quality carbohydrates in the form of processed sugar, right? So it's the same thing with gluten. It's the same thing with carbs in general, right? So there's some of you that are on a ketogenic diet, which is an extremely low carbohydrate diet, right? We're talking 50 grams of carbohydrate or less, and per day, and you have to maintain that for an extended period of time in order for your body to drop into the state of ketosis where it's burning and it's manufacturing ketone bodies to fill your brain's need of that energy source. So what happens though is when people do a ketogenic diet and they completely eliminate all carb sources, is they don't realize just how much more fat and other proteins and everything like that they have to consume in order to backfill that energy deficit that they just created by by switching and hacking off an entire food group of carbohydrate choices, right? So that's something that you have to be very cognizant of. Even if you're doing like something more vegetarian, giving up meat, same thing, right? Meat has a pretty decent amount of caloric density, so you have to be very cognizant about that and reaching for good quality plant-based sources of protein within enough, and make sure that you're getting enough of that. So something to think about: when you take something out, you got to put something else good back in. Okay. If you have questions about that, comment below, guys. I'd be happy to answer and delve further into this, but just a thought: take something out, put something else back in, right? You can't just leave something out and expect good things to happen. It will catch up with you. It will start a process where you're just a ticking time bomb waiting for a binge to happen, okay? So something to think about. The next question I got was from April, and she was asking, what should I be consuming before, after a workout, right? And the answer to this question is it usually depends, right? It depends on you. You're gonna get very tired if you continue to watch this segment of me saying it depends, right? Because that's usually the answer to a lot of these questions. Especially with nutrition, it's very highly individualized. It depends on your lifestyle, your hormonal status, whatever you want to call it. It usually depends. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over some generalizations, and hopefully that will kind of provide some reference for you, something valuable that you'll be able to take away with this, okay? So here we go. Number one on it depends on when you train, right? So a person that trains first thing in the morning fasted is going to be different than somebody training at 6 p.m. at night that has already had 2 to 3 meals during the day, right? Another big it depends on how much you're training during that week. So a person that trains 3 to 4 hours a week, like I would recommend most healthy adults do, is going to have different needs than that athlete that's doing 2-a-days over 6 days a week, is getting a total of 10 to 12 training hours per day, right? So your nutritional needs vary pretty significantly based on your activity levels and when that activity is occurring, as well as your height, weight, hormonal status, and all of those things, right? So that's it depends, right? Now, kind of taking a step back here, we're going to talk about, well, if I train first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, right, that means that your last meal was probably dinner, and that was probably 8 to 10 hours ago. If you're training during that time, your post-workout meal, right, is going to be more important that you get that relatively quickly within, I'd say an hour and a half of training, right? There's no reason for you to, have to rush home or, as soon as you finish your last set of bench press, shake up a protein shake and slam it. If you want to do that for convenience sake, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. However, that's not something that's absolutely necessary, right? So, but for that person, protein becomes very important, and you want to get that protein into your body relatively quickly, all right? The next thing that would be important would be some type of easily digesting carbohydrate, whether it's, rice, potato, something to that nature. You want to get something, that's protein, carbohydrate. Typically after a workout, we try to do less fat and more carbohydrate if you're training and it's your first meal post-workout, because it will help with speeding up and getting those nutrients into the blood and back into the muscles and helping speed that recovery process. However, if you just have a normal meal, you're going to be fine, right? If you're that person that's training just in a fasted state and you train 3 to 4 times a week for an hour, doing a mixture of resistance training and cardiovascular type activity, just getting a normal mixed meal within an hour post-workout is going to be totally fine, right? As long as you're just cognizant that you're getting some type of a protein in there, and you're not just doing a typical American, breakfast that's just nothing but dessert, like pancakes and whatever else. So think more towards the protein sources: eggs, bacon, things like that, and then maybe a little bit of carbohydrate based in there too. So some fruit, some oats, something like that, right? Now, if you are a person that trains later on in the day, you want to have a meal of some type of protein composition within the last 3 hours, right? You don't have to have something immediately before you train, or even within 45 minutes. If you want to have a snack 40 to 60 minutes prior to training, as long as it sits well with you and it is easily digestible, that's really going to depend on person to person. But having something light, that's easy to digest, maybe maybe some cottage cheese or Greek yogurt or something like that with a piece of fruit, or just an apple and almonds is fine, as long as you feel good during the workout and it's setting well with you, and you don't want to you don't feel bloated, and you don't feel crazy during the workout like you're going to throw up. That's kind of what we're looking for, and that's going to be varied from individual to individual. So but if you've had something relatively recently, I'd say within the last 3 hours, you're covered as long as you have the energy to get through the workout, right? So same thing post-workout. If you are able to get a whole food meal in within 3 hours of training, you're pretty set if you are the average person, right? If you are just a normal human being that has a normal life, that trains 3 to 4 times a week, you're covered, right? If you're having good amounts, a good mixed meal, protein, carbs, fats, some type of a protein, whether it's a meat-based protein or a dairy-based protein, or even a plant-based protein, as long as you're getting a decent amount of protein. For the ladies, we're looking 20 to 40 grams of protein. Men, we're looking for 40 to 60 grams. And how do you know that you have that amount? Just look at your palm, right? The size of your palm, and then the thickness of your palm. That's kind of what we're going for. For men, we're trying to get 2 palms of protein at a meal. Women, we're trying to get 1 palm of protein at a meal. The rest is going to go towards fats and vegetables and carbohydrates, right? So as long as you're getting one of the appropriate portion size for your body, 3 to 4 times a day, you're set. Okay. From there, if you're one of those people that likes to train 2 days, or is busting their butt in the gym, then it becomes a little bit more important, right? So you want to make sure that you're getting a decent, slow-burning, easily digestible carbohydrate in the form of some type of slow-burning carb, whether that's a sweet potato with a little bit of fat on there pre-workout, with some type of easily digestible protein source, whether it's like fish or think white protein that's got a little less fat in there, something that sits nice and easily, and you want to have that far enough away from your training session that you're not going to throw it up, right? From there, then it becomes a little bit more important to make sure that you're getting your body the nutrients that it needs in order for you to sustain yourself and prepare your body and prepare it for the next bout of exercise later on in the day, right? So that's something where a protein shake with a little bit of carbohydrate, some Gatorade, something like that, will help kind of speed up that recovery just a little bit for your next training bout. If you're a normal person, completely ignore what I just said. Your body is going to take care of itself during the night. It's going to replenish all the the muscles and the proteins and all that stuff. It's going to repair itself before your next bout of exercise the following day, right? It has plenty of time to do that. So I hope that answered your question. If you have more questions, please put them down below. This video went a little bit longer than I was hoping to, but if you like the direction that we're going here, if you like the video content, please share this with your friends, hit like, and then let me know in the comments below. Facebook, if it ranks all this stuff, so please help us out. Let us get more eyes on the message that we're spreading, and I hope to see you guys. Come check us out, Virtue Strength Conditioning in Baton Rouge if you're local. And I hope to see you guys. Hope to hear from you. Thanks again for watching.